The two latest stories out of Pittsburgh left Steelers fans stunned, but for very different reasons. On one hand, the Aaron Rodgers era is starting to feel like something straight out of a movie, with the veteran looking right at home in black and gold. On the other, a surprising statement from a familiar face just ripped open some old wounds about how the Steelers have handled quarterback development. While the offense shines under the leadership of a living legend, harsh criticism from the past is casting a shadow that might still be lingering. And the first headline shows why Rodgers became a hot topic, even at Tom Brady's desk. Aaron Rodgers in a Steelers jersey? Yeah, it still feels a little surreal, but man, through the first stretch of this season, it's starting to look like a match made in football heaven. After months of head-scratching and speculation about who would take the reins in Pittsburgh, Rodgers finally shut the noise down and locked in for the 2025 campaign. And let's just say, he's been cooking. With Mike Tomlin steering the ship and Rodgers behind center, the Steelers are sitting pretty at 3-1. Even with a Week 5 bye, they stayed in the spotlight because Rodgers hasn't just filled a void, he's transformed the vibe in Pittsburgh. That offense, which had been limping along for years trying to find a true leader, now has one of the sharpest minds and smoothest arms in NFL history calling the shots. The chemistry is real. The deep ball is back. And you can feel that the young guys around him, especially in the wide receiver room, are leveling up just being on the same field. He's reading defenses like a textbook and dropping dimes with that same laser focus we've seen for years. It's vintage Rodgers, just in black and gold. Even Tom Brady, who knows a thing or two about leading a franchise and winning at the highest level, couldn't help but give Rodgers his flowers. Sitting on the Fox Sports set, Brady broke it down like only he can, highlighting Rodgers' surgical passing, his command under pressure, and the mental toughness it takes to keep performing like this deep into your career. Beyond impressed, Brady said. At that age, there are a lot of other things you have to manage, and Rodgers is doing it all. He's a surgical passer. And when the GOAT calls you a killer on the field, that's not just flattery, that's a stamp of legitimacy. Brady also talked about Rodgers' hyper-competitive mindset, and honestly, you can feel that fire in how this Steelers team has come out swinging. There's a different energy, calm, confident, but with that edge you need to survive the AFC North meat grinder. And speaking of AFC North chaos, Rodgers is about to get his first real taste of division play in Pittsburgh colors. After the bye, the Steelers face the Browns at home, and yeah, the Browns are no walkover. Rookie QB Dylan Gabriel's been surprisingly poised, and this one's shaping up to be a classic slugfest. As any Steelers fan knows, it doesn't matter if it's October or January. These matchups are straight-up wars. Rodgers will need to keep that precision locked in, and the big guys up front better be ready to throw down because the Browns' D can bring the heat. But if what we've seen through the first month is any indication, this team is finding its groove, and Rodgers is leading the dance. But what Joshua Dobbs said right after that might change how a lot of people see the Steelers behind the scenes. And this interview just dropped. The Steelers might be sitting pretty at the top of the AFC North, but just as they're gearing up for a big Week 6 showdown, one of their old quarterbacks decided to stir the pot a bit. Joshua Dobbs, who once backed up Big Ben in Pittsburgh, had some not-so-sweet things to say about how the black and gold handled his early NFL days, and it's the kind of critique that could have Mike Tomlin and his staff raising eyebrows. Dobbs, who the Steelers grabbed in the 4th round back in 2017, bounced around quite a bit since then. Jaguars, Browns, Lions, Titans, Cardinals, Vikings, Niners, and now he's backing up Drake May in New England. So yeah, the guy's seen it all. But out of all those stops, according to Dobbs, his early days in Pittsburgh were the roughest. He didn't hold back either. In a chat with Ty Dunn of Go Long, Dobbs basically said the Steelers handed him a helmet and wished him luck. No structured development, no clear plan, just a big old figure-it-out mentality. I've shown up for work and had no clue what I was being asked to do, Dobbs said. There's no framework of what you're trying to get done as an offense. It's trial by error, and that's not enjoyable. I want to know the why, how we're attacking, the reasoning behind it. That kind of raw honesty hits differently, especially when it's coming from a guy who's still grinding and finding ways to contribute in the league. Dobbs isn't some bitter ex looking for attention. He's a smart, respected veteran who's experienced both good and bad setups across the NFL. And to hear him say the Steelers gave him the worst of it? That's tough. Now, to be fair, Dobbs' time in Pittsburgh was during the final stretch of Roethlisberger's career, when the focus wasn't exactly on grooming the next guy up. But since Big Ben walked away in 2021, Pittsburgh's quarterback carousel has been a bumpy ride. Kenny Pickett fizzled fast, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields didn't move the needle in 2024, and now, finally, Aaron Rodgers has brought some stability to the position. Rodgers is doing his thing and has the Steelers' offense looking sharper than it has in years. But Dobbs' comments are a reminder that at some point, Pittsburgh's going to have to stop leaning on veterans and start building up the next franchise QB from scratch. And if they want that guy to succeed, they can't just toss him in the fire and hope he figures it out. For now, though, the Steelers are focused on what's in front of them, holding down the AFC North lead and taking care of business against the Browns this weekend. But you better believe Dobbs' words are echoing through the walls in Pittsburgh. And when the time comes to develop that next young gun, they'll need to show they've learned from the past. Rodgers is saving the present, but Dobbs reminded us the future is still a concern. The Steelers have to learn from past mistakes if they want something lasting. If you're into this kind of content, subscribe so you don't miss anything.